Japan has just stepped into the center of Asia's most dangerous economic pressure point with a bold move, pledging $10 billion to help neighboring countries secure oil and stabilize energy supply chains during the ongoing Iran war-driven crisis. This is not a routine aid package. It is a strategic intervention at a moment when global energy flows are under severe stress, especially through the Strait of Hormuz, where disruptions have already sent shockwaves through Asia's fuel-dependent economies. The announcement came from Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi after an emergency virtual meeting with regional leaders, and it immediately signaled something bigger than financial support. It signaled coordination under pressure. Because when energy becomes unstable, politics, trade, and security all collide at the same time. And right now, Asia is sitting directly in the path of that collision. From Southeast Asia to South Asia, governments are already struggling with rising fuel prices, supply uncertainty, and growing public pressure. Japan's move is not just about helping others, it is also about protecting itself. And in this kind of interconnected system, no country can act alone without affecting everyone else. To understand why this $10 billion pledge matters so much, you need to understand Asia's energy dependency structure. The region is one of the most oil-reliant parts of the world, and a massive portion of that oil travels through narrow maritime routes that are now under strain. Nearly 90% of oil and gas passing through the Strait of Hormuz is destined for Asian markets, meaning any disruption in that corridor instantly affects countries like India, South Korea, Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Japan itself is deeply embedded in this system. It relies heavily on imported crude oil and petroleum-based products, not just for transport and industry, but also for essential manufacturing chains that produce everything from electronics to medical equipment. This is why Japanese officials have framed the crisis not just as an energy issue, but as a supply chain shock. When oil becomes unstable, it doesn't only affect fuel prices, it affects hospitals, factories, shipping routes, and even basic goods. Japan's message is clear: if Asia's energy system starts to fracture, the consequences will not stay contained in one region. They will spread quickly through global markets that depend on Asian production and consumption. The structure of Japan's plan reflects how serious the situation has become. The $10 billion support framework is designed not as direct aid, but as a multi-layered financial mechanism involving state-backed institutions. These include the Japan Bank for International Cooperation, Nippon Export and Investment Insurance, the Japan International Cooperation Agency, and even the Asian Development Bank. Instead of simply sending money, Japan is trying to build financial pathways that allow countries to secure crude oil, petroleum products, and storage capacity in a more stable and predictable way. The goal is to strengthen supply chain resilience, expand strategic stockpiles, and reduce the risk of sudden shortages. Officials have also stressed that this initiative will not weaken Japan's own energy security. That point is important because Japan is simultaneously managing its own vulnerability. The country currently holds enough reserves for roughly 254 days of consumption, but even that buffer is being tested. In recent months, Japan has already released 50 days worth of reserves and is preparing to release another 20 days. This shows that even advanced economies with strong planning are not immune to global energy shocks. Behind the policy announcement, there is a deeper reality. Asia is already feeling the pressure of a fragmented energy market. Rising oil prices have forced several Southeast Asian governments to take emergency measures. In some countries, citizens have been encouraged to carpool, reduce electricity usage, and limit air conditioning consumption to conserve fuel. The Philippines has gone further by declaring a national energy emergency, highlighting how quickly the situation is escalating. At the same time, industries that depend on petrochemicals, especially those derived from crude oil like naphtha, are beginning to face shortages. This is particularly serious in Japan, where naphtha is a key input for plastics and medical supplies. Hospitals are especially concerned because essential items like syringes, gloves, and dialysis equipment depend on stable petrochemical supply chains. When energy crises reach the healthcare sector, the issue is no longer just economic. It becomes social and political. Governments then face pressure not just from markets, but from citizens who feel the impact directly in their daily lives. The political dimension of this crisis is equally important. At the same regional summit where Japan announced its support package, leaders across Asia emphasized the need for collective action. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. warned that no single country in Asia can protect itself from supply chain shocks alone, calling for the activation of regional fuel-sharing mechanisms under ASEAN. Countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and Bangladesh are all navigating different levels of exposure to the crisis. But the common thread is vulnerability. This is what makes Japan's move strategically significant. It is not just providing money, but trying to anchor regional coordination. In a fragmented system, coordination becomes power. And Japan, which has historically relied on stable global trade routes, now sees energy security as a shared regional responsibility rather than a national concern. This shift also reflects a broader transformation in Asian geopolitics, where economic security is becoming as important as military security. There is also a deeper geopolitical layer beneath the surface. The energy crisis triggered by disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz has exposed how dependent Asia remains on a single choke point for its most critical resource. This creates strategic vulnerability, not just for individual countries, but for the entire regional economy. Japan's $10 billion pledge can therefore be seen as an attempt to stabilize not just supply chains, but political confidence. Because when energy prices rise sharply and shortages begin to appear, governments face domestic pressure, inflation risks, and potential political instability. By stepping in early, Japan is trying to prevent a cascade effect where one country's crisis spreads to another. But the effectiveness of this strategy depends on how long the global disruption lasts and whether maritime stability can be restored. If tensions in key shipping lanes continue, even large financial packages may only provide temporary relief rather than long-term solutions. In the end, Japan's decision marks a turning point in how Asia responds to energy crises. Instead of isolated national reactions, we are now seeing coordinated financial and strategic responses to shared vulnerabilities. The $10 billion pledge is not just about oil. It is about stability, trust, and interdependence in a region where supply chains stretch across dozens of economies. For Japan, this move reinforces its role as a stabilizing force in Asia, using financial tools rather than military ones to shape outcomes. For other countries, it offers temporary relief, but also highlights a deeper concern: that energy security in today's world is fragile, interconnected, and increasingly political. As long as global choke points remain unstable, every economy tied to them will remain exposed. And what Japan has done here is quietly acknowledge that reality, not by solving the crisis, but by trying to manage its fallout before it spirals further.